much. So here we go, the fourth section of today. Go-to-market strategies for robotics startups. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our speaker, Mr. Avinash Kaushik, founder and CEO of Robotics. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. So, just a quick show of hands. How many of you have actually actually met a robot in real life? Not in an expo, not in a retail store, but do you have a small robot or have you met a robot in real life? Anybody? So, technology is really great, I come from India. I represent Revex Hardware Accelerator. So what we do is help companies, startups from emerging markets like India and Africa. So I personally, I work in Africa, in Ethiopia. So that's where we started working with startups. I used to work for World Bank's ICT Incubation Center in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa. So it was, there are so many challenges in a country like Africa and emerging countries like India. Everything is chaotic. Infrastructure or be it any healthcare or payments, every sector in the industry is very chaotic. We are trying to automate. And in different part of the world, China and Asia Pacific and these countries, we are building great things, great technologies, and India is one of the major consumer of these technologies. So we are an incubator in India. We work with startups, and we also run innovation programs. We conduct the India Gadget Expo, which is the CES sort of an event for India. And we also have a retail chain called Airflash, which is an experience store for electronics. So India, as you all know, is one of the biggest importer of electronics. 65% of Indian electronics is important. The largest import into India is electronics. But unfortunately, India is not building much of electronics, much of technology, much of robotics, very strong in IT, also strong in IoT of late, and artificial intelligence, but not much on the hardware front. Shenzhen, China is the capital, not just for India, but the rest of the world. Countries, continents, Americas to Europe come here to manufacture. But just imagine, there's so much technology today. We are talking about robotics, and none of us, not many, have actually seen robot deliver something to you, talk to you, or respond to you. The same thing, just let's go back to the 18th, 19th century. Just think about New York City, 1893. This is New York City. And all you see is horse carriages. People used to travel. I don't see a single motor vehicle here. And this is 1893. And just go 5 years down the line, you see advertisements on newspapers. And the advertisement said, dispense with a horse and save the expense, care, and anxiety of keeping it. Everybody had to struggle to tame a horse and to keep a horse and have a horse stable, have a horse rider. So just give attention to the underlined wordings. Half a cent a mile, 3 miles to 20 miles an hour. Horse carriages running at 3 miles an hour. You can buy the Winton motor carriage, which runs at 20 miles an hour. And there's no odor. This is the kind of advertisements that came in 1898. So this was all about telling people, stop using your horse carriages. Now it's time for us to use the motor vehicles. Enough of using horses and animals. Now let's use motors, automated machines, which can take you from point A to point B. And within the next 20 years, New York City was like this. New York City, Fifth Avenue, 1913 was like this. Not a single horse carriage. You only see motor vehicles. And today, almost a century later, we are still talking about robotics. We are talking about machines. And, we still don't have a single robot in our life. Not many have. There are a few in expos. There are a few in retail stores. There's a lot of buzz. Big companies are talking about robots. There are industries which are using robots. But consumers, common people, are not having any robots in our lives. And this is the same thing. And if we have to, if robot has to be commercialized, it's pretty much the same journey for robots in the next 20, 30 years. We will see many robots come into our lives, and we will see, like the motor vehicles here, we will soon see robots part of our lives. They will be our companions. They will be at our offices. There will be autonomous vehicles and delivery machines. So today we are also talking about new age things. Today we are talking about autonomous, transport vehicles. We are talking about, autonomous logistics trucks. Uber paid a hefty amount just for the technology from this company, and it is using for self-driven cars. So every large company's focus is into robotics. Today we have, guys like Domino's Pizza in Europe delivering pizzas using Starship Technologies delivery vehicle. Today we have a population, as we speak, we are around 7.5 billion people, almost like 7.49 something, and we have over a million and a half robots in the world. Almost 300,000, majority of them are industrial robots. We don't see it in our day-to-day life. Most of them are in industries, from Foxconn to every large company is automating things. China is a very big investor in robotics. So you can actually break up, you see the industrial robots that we don't really see in our life. There are these service robots. Majority of this market, almost 80% of this market, is industrial robots. You and I don't see them. We only see them in videos. There are service robots coming into our lives very soon. There are already robots in the retail space. There are robots doing surgeries. There are robots which are our toys. Our children are using these robots. Very soon we will see all these. But a majority of the market right now is industrial. And in coming to robotic spending, over 50% of the robotic spending is in manufacturing. The world is spending in manufacturing, be it much of the manufacturing is in assembly, welding, painting, and mixing. This is the manufacturing piece. And by 2020, this manufacturing piece is going to be around $110 billion. You do have many other automating processes, like robotic automation process, automated pick and pack, and other spaces. Much of this industrial automation is ruled by these large companies. Fanuc, who's making 400,000 robots today, they're already deployed. There are other companies, most of them from Japan and Germany and Europe. And these are the companies which are already deployed these robots in the world, in industrial robots. And coming back to our discussion, so what do startups do? These are all the big companies who are invested. They have all the infrastructure. They have the money. But what do? How to get into this market when these big guys are already there? Large governments are investing. But what about startups which are building very small prototyping stage companies? So there's another industry as well, the service robots again. consumer, healthcare, and retail. These are the major spaces for robotics in the service robots. And when you talk about service robots, the drone itself is like $125 billion by 2020, according to Price Waters. You have UAV, which is around $22 billion. So together, the service robots industry is like $26 billion. So we just saw that the industrial robots is $110 billion, and then the service robots is $226 billion. So that means very soon, the service robots are going to overtake the industrial robots in this world. We will see these robots in our lives, not just in the big, the tech makers of the world, not just in China or Japan, but also in countries like Africa and India, because India is a major consumer. There are 1.3 billion people in India today, and everything is chaotic. In Africa as well, you cannot reach a remote destination. I myself worked in Somalia to Sudan to Ethiopia. You just cannot deliver things. The cities, the houses are so remotely organized, and it's very difficult to deliver anything. So there are drone companies which are delivering in Africa. So robotic spending. So we saw, the startups. There is space, very good opportunity in the service sector. There's also very competitive market in the industrial space. But again, what are the countries? What are the geographies that we need to focus and look at it? 2015, APAC is 19% of the whole market. North America is 22. Europe is the leader. When the biggest market was for robotics. And in come 2020, Asia Pacific is going to be 2/3 of the world. The robotic market, you don't have to go to Kickstarters and target US market. It's right here. Asia Pacific, India, China, Japan, Korea. These are the countries which are going to be the biggest. In fact, India is one of the most biggest consumer for these robotics come 2020. APAC, 2/3 of the market. And that's the biggest opportunity for startups from here, from China, from Hong Kong, from Asia Pacific, from India. We are privileged to have such a big market, and we are privileged to be building things. And more privileged is this market in China and Hong Kong and this region, who have the luxury of manufacturing right across, 45 minutes away. And the supply of industrial robots, again, is going to be Asia Pacific. The supply of the density of robots today, like you see, there are 3 to 4 European countries. South Korea is the only exception here. The density of robotics, South Korea, Japan, that apart, you have Germany, Sweden, US, France, UK. And then look at the bottom box. You have Indonesia. China is investing now, but there's still a long way to go. China is putting, a big money into robotics, but there is absolutely no robotics, very, very dismal robotic ratio in countries like India and Middle East. So this is the opportunity for all of us, because there's so much of chaos in these countries, and that's the opportunity. So slowly we are going to see US, Europe die down on their robotics, luxury of being the big markets. And slowly you will see all these younger countries, and that's the opportunity for us and all these startups. But remember something, just because there is so much opportunity, just a few points, notes from my end. Just identify and solve the right problem. Focus on one solution at a time. We see companies doing B2B, B2C, multiple sectors, multiple geographies. Just focus on one product, one market, one customer segment, one geography, and choose the business models. It's not just, you cannot implant a SaaS into a robotics company. You can't do a subscription just because it's cool. You need to identify if it's really matching your business model. Then more than anything is the customer. It's not the marketing jargon of product price, placing promotion. It's all about customers, right? You need to be working with the customer because this is new tech, new technology, and you need to work things for your customer. You need to do a certain job for a particular consumer. So there are many instances. There are companies which have done fancy things initially, and then they're trying to pivot. There are multiple business models. Collaborative robots is something that is very acceptable. In countries like India, imagine 1.3 billion people. There is even if just one segment of the market gets automated, there is so much chaos, so much joblessness, and people are going to go crazy. Government will not let these things happen. There are regulatory hurdles that robotic companies need to handle. So the best approach is cobots. That's a market where a robot and people work together. They're collaboratively working together. There are assisted robots, for elderly people, to service robots in hotels, in retail chains, like we discussed, the Benjamin or Comet Labs. They spoke about retail and healthcare. There are these Internet of Robotics coming up, robots talking to themselves and manipulating. It's not just being informative and smart, but also in manipulating things on their own. And robotics as a service. There are companies which are doing this. So now where to sell these things? You've seen retailers shut down. I can see almost 3 to 4 of these big labels rest in peace. Radio Shack down. I used to work for Radio Shack in the past, so I know the sentiments. The company, which was the big ticket, big label in the 1970s, which was spearheading the maker movement in United States, 1970. Radio Shack is the coolest thing. It's like the better store of those days. Today, Radio Shack has shut down. I have colleagues from Radio Shack I have worked with who are very emotional about the company, and there are other Brookstone and Circuit City, which is already shut down. Macy's launched Brookstone in their stores, and now they have gone lean. So there are all these challenges, but we have some newer channels that have opened up with crowdfunding and experience stores, accelerators supporting these companies. You have the Kickstarter and Indiegogos to support you, and you have Better Store. Revex, we ourselves are doing the AirFlash stores in India. We are doing many pop-up stores in fitness centers, to hospitals, to schools. We're not taking people to retail. We are doing the other way. We are taking people to retail. We are taking retail to people. We are setting up pop-up stores wherever there are, in office complexes to fitness centers. We are trying to help these products sell. Same way, I think England is doing the same. Harvard Club in Europe is doing the same. Hacks, Highway 1, Revex, all hardware accelerators are doing a lot of corporate innovation. I think Hacks is doing J&J. Again, a channel to reach out to large companies. PCH, Highway 1, Lemnos Lab, everybody is into corporate innovation. So that's a new channel. So as the sales cycles are very long for all these gadget companies, you go to salespeople, almost 6 months sales cycle. But if you go to talk to their innovation teams, at least a little more willing to explore these products. Best Buy, Target, other traditional retail, e-commerce. So basically, you need to be very clear in what you're selling, how you're selling, and where you're selling. About your products, customers, and markets. So the idea is you need to be very focused and niche. You need to be very clear. You need to know, there are companies like Intuition Robotics, which is doing elderly assistance. It's a very emotion sensing product. So it's got a very strong use case for elderly people. 30% of population, the US population, is elderly old people. And even today, even my parents are old. I don't have the time to talk to them. I don't have time to advise them on their Medicare. So there are products who are doing very niche, and they are doing these things like, spend time with your old people, help them, and emotionally talk to them as well. There are companies which are doing, very, very specific jobs which are being deployed. There are companies, Soft Robotics is doing, working in the food shipping industry. It's, it's got this dexterity, it's very soft, like a human touch, so it's easy, and it's got a very strong use case in the food industry. There are warehouse robots. Amazon is leading this entire campaign in the warehouse space. Amazon is Amazon today because of what it did almost 4 or 5 years ago. It acquired Kiva Systems, almost $775 million. And it made sure that no other retailer, no other e-commerce company has this technology and has this ability to deliver quicker and efficiency and cost reduction. So every other company, every other e-commerce company could not be served by Kiva. So Amazon made sure that they have it in-house, and Kiva cannot do service for anybody else. So almost for 2 to 3 years, every other e-commerce company was struggling with its logistics, while Amazon was doing good. So that's the advantage, the kind of value addition that Kiva brought into Amazon. Amazon had Amazon Robotics, which is now leading Kiva initiatives. 30,000 Kiva robots are deployed in Amazon, and there are 100 more to go. There are 100 more warehouses, and Amazon can save almost $2.5 billion by just implementing these robots in its warehouses. These bots are almost reducing their OpEx by 20%. No other e-commerce company could do this. And that's the leverage that Amazon enjoyed for 3 to 4 years. And today you have people from Kiva and ex-employees and others who have now started other companies like 6-Hour Systems, warehouse robots. In India, we have the gray-orange, pretty much similar robots, very popular. They raise big money series stage. Then you have other robots like I Am Robotics, which are used in grabbing things in the retail stores, warehouses. There's Fetch Robotics, which is used in picking. It can catch things when it's a cobot. It works with the warehouse personnel as staff. So all these companies are doing very, very niche and very focused solutions. Oshbot deployed in the Lowe's Innovation Lab, Lowe's stores in US, retail, and many other places. So these companies, KUKA is a very, very strong industrial robotics company. So these are all doing very niche things, and that's the way to go for robotic companies, robotic startups. This is the way to go. Do things very focused, one product, one solution, one market, and there are a bunch of them. So in India, we have Endless Robotics. We are advising Sastra Robotics, which is robotic arm. There are a bunch of other companies. These are the newsmakers of this year. So we ourselves at Revex, we have a robotic company which is into sports. Cricket is a very, very crazy game in India. Everybody loves cricket. And we have a company which is helping, people, the players train. We have robotic bowlers. That is, we have ball dispensers, which are robotic, which understand the players, their capabilities, their weakness, and then it tailors their training according to their capabilities. And everything a player wears, wearables and smart cricket balls, all these things together help get a lot of insights on an individual player. And this is what we are doing. This is a Revex company, See How. It's disrupting the training market, especially cricket, which is a $75 billion market in India. So this company, See How, is now their focus is cricket, and they easily get into football, the soccer, baseball, but they just want to remain in cricket, solve the solution, solve the problem, capture the market, and maybe in the future they'll think about different sectors, different geographies. So that's the kind of focus that is required. It's very tempting. There are companies from US there are baseball clubs from US who are asking for the solution from us. Robohan, everybody is getting up for the Olympics in Japan. Japan has almost 19 World Heritage Centers. It has 20 million tourists, and come Olympics, Japan is looking at 40 million tourists. And there aren't many tourist guides, and not many people speak English or foreign languages. So Japan has this Robohan. It's a very interesting business model and rollout in Japan. It's a pocket robot. It's like a mobile phone. It's given to all the tourists. It's Sharp is the company which is manufacturing this. And then there is Keiku, the rail and airport operator, who is handing over these robots to the tourists once they land. And then there are these Wi-Fi router companies which are giving them free hotspots. And software company is doing which has done the SoftBank Group's humanoid robot Pepper solution. Hospitality programming and application is doing the same for Robohan. So that's the kind of go-to-market, very interesting, collaborating with the ecosystem and launching for a particular market, particular problem, and very interestingly done. So that's all about. This is all I have to say. So the idea is to be simple and to be very focused. I wish you all, people who are interested in the robotic space, you can always reach out to me, Avinash at revex.com. We also support any other hardware company. Companies who want to come and distribute in India. India is a very strong consumer. We have retail stores, AirFlash. These are experience stores. If you want to come showcase in our store in India and explore Indian market, come and distribute. Always open. I would be happy to display your product. And I wish you all a very good Easter, and see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Avinash. Please remain on stage. We may have some questions to ask. Any questions? Yes, gentlemen.
From the University of Hong Kong, year 3, studying economics and finance. I would like to ask 2 questions. Number one, I know that some of those engineering students of my colleagues who are very interested in investigating some robotic movements in Hong Kong, especially in terms of local restaurants or even some currency exchange robots. And I would like to ask if their implementation is successful in Hong Kong. You know that the cost of Hong Kong is so high for actually employing a person. But and in fact, in India or Brazil, the cost of human capital maybe is very low. So is it really cost effective for us to introduce such technologies or robotics into your market? And the second question will be I wonder if some of those automations, existing automations, such as vending machines or some teller machines, are already playing a very essential part, like some of those robotics. And are there any rooms for improvements for such as ATMs? Shall we apply some more robotic movements into these sectors? Thank you.
Great questions. So yes, this is the challenge that most of the Asia-Pacific countries, Japan, Taiwan, Korea, most of the smaller geography companies are facing. It's a small market, but fortunately, India is very open to international companies. India is very open to foreign companies to come and set up operation. Human capital is a no-brainer. Everybody knows it's the cheapest, one of the cheapest in the world. There is good talent because all the IT people who are doing software, they're all transitioning into IoT and AI. India is very, very strong in in computer software. So AI is an extension. So it's a no-brainer. In terms of human capital, it's the cheapest. Market is one of the largest. There are infrastructure challenges, there are regulatory challenges, but if you can survive that pain, then it's a big market. So happy to support any such initiative. I also represent NASSCOM, which is the National Association of Corporations in India. I also work with Invest India and Make in India initiatives. So happy to make any supportive programs and initiatives for you guys to explore Indian market. The other question you asked is
about the robotic movements.
Yeah. See, the robotic movement, Indians see a lot of value. It's not easy to replace. In US, in gas stations, you can go and you have to fill your own gas, petrol, diesel. But in India, you have people. You have 5 people. A car goes into a gas station. There are 5 guys who come and attend to you. That is, there are so many people, right? So if you are trying to replace a person, the labor is so cheap. The cost of a robot battery would be more expensive than hiring 5 people there, right? So it cannot be very incremental robotic innovation. It has to be really, really, disruptive and a lot of value-adding solution. That's the kind of things that will work, not just in India, but most of the emerging economies.
Does that answer your questions? Thank you. So, any others? Yes, gentlemen?
I am a medium-scale industrialist from Germany with
Welcome.
a lot of investments in India in small scale. And I just can, and we are in sensors for robotics. Linear motion, rotary, so we make the mechanical movement into an electrical signal. That's the main business. And we found in China and India a tremendous increase in reasonably priced sensors, because the sensors who do that are a key part, and if they are too expensive, the robots get too expensive, and the number of reasonable priced robots is not existing. And there is no reason why it is not existing. The electronics are not expensive anymore. The sensors we offer is medium priced, but nobody dares to go into the lower areas. And when you look, KUKA just has been sold to China, to Midea. So China has bought the largest, one of the largest German robotic company only 3 months ago. So China goes heavily into Europe to get the technology, and medium-priced robots will have a very good chance, and you are completely right, they have to be dedicated.
Yes.
And so it was very interesting to hear what you said.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, come from far away from Germany to this conference. Big welcome. And any more questions? Okay, thank you. So if you have further more questions would like to ask our expert, please send email to this avinash@robotics.com.